Already.
All right, it's time for our next discussion, and this time we shall be looking at our fire outbreak. If you remember last month, or probably at the beginning of this month also, we had incidents of fire outbreak in markets, at the Kuba markets, where we lost about 10 or maybe more. And then the Nyanya own was recently, although there was no life was lost, but properties were destroyed. Before these two fire incidents I mentioned, I know we had the Kubo the Kubo furniture markets. There was one in Guarimpa. There was one in one of the popular shopping mall in town. So we've had incidents of fire in market, especially here in the FCT. But many people have been asking, why do we keep having outbreak of fires? But like the incidents in Kupwa, we knew it was though not inside the market, but it was as a result of those selling inflammable products like kerosene, and these kerosene particularly on the front of that market, or the corridor of the market. That was what actually led to that fire. But the season we are now is the harmattan season, that's the dry season, where we have increasing cases of fire, bush fire, or where people intend to want to clear their lands or probably put fires on bushes to go hunting and all that for different purposes, without actually having prior notice of the effects or the danger of this fire in this period. But to look at all this and what people should do at a time like this, I have the PRO, that the Public Relations Officer of the FCT Fire Service. He is Town Planner Ibrahim Mohammed Tahir. Is the PRO, like I said, PRO FCT Fire Service. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yes, let's begin with the fire incidents that happened recently in the FCT. The Nyanya markets, the Kubwa markets. Few months ago, we had the Guaripa, or there's a mob also where a little girl was accused of setting up fire in one of the markets. So just take us through this last incidents.
All right, thank you very much. Fire is something that we should expect anytime because we make use of it. We are not saying that fire outbreaks will not happen time to time, but how prepared are you? So most of these things that have happened recently, most of them are a result of carelessness. And FCT Fire Service has been carrying out campaign, going to their premises, telling them of what to do to avert this problem. It's an avoidable problem because when you are preparing your structure, you should know that there are a lot of things that may happen to the structure in the future. Things like collapse of the structure, things like fire outbreak. So it's better, it's for you to be sensitized to prepare against such occurrences. So going back to your question precisely about especially the recent fire outbreaks here and there, is as a result of the harmattan season. When harmattan comes in, the humidity is low and the atmosphere is charged. And as a result of that, most of the materials that are not even prone, or maybe they cannot ignite fire on time, get oxygenated. And as a result of that, any small spark ignite fire. So we have told them severally that let's you put a preparation or maybe a preventive measure in your premises. Let's talk about precisely that of the mall. Actually, we discovered that during the fire attack, we discovered that that mall also have other safety-related issues. Exits become so difficult. If you come in, so the place so choked up that the fire had a free day. You know, it was just expanding, and the firemen were having little egress, that is little access to the fire scene, I mean to the real seat of fire. So it took time for us to get that fire extinguished. And when we talk about that of kerosene, that of Kubwa market, that one is a kerosene explosion, and we have told that mostly that there are compatible businesses that are supposed to be in an area, and if those businesses are not compatible to a residence or to other, you take them off there. So the work of DPR, we have synergy with DPR. We've been informing them that they should please evacuate those kind of non-conforming businesses to residential areas. And I want to also commend the authority, that is FCTA, that they swung into action immediately when that thing happened. About 10 lives were lost, as you rightly said. And they swung into action, and that place is cleared now. And we are not, limiting it to that place. Other places too have to go, so that what? These businesses, just like the first speaker before in this program, the SSA to the minister said that most of these shoulders were occupied because it's actually reduced the breadth of the road, and even if there is a fire outbreak, we hardly find the accessibility to get to the fire ground. So, but right now the coast is getting clear, and our men are having a very good operations.
Okay, let's look at, you mentioned about the safety measures in buildings. Yeah. Now, looking at market settings, we know how large market settings used to be. We have the normal contemporary markets, the open markets where people come, display their goods, and at the end of the day, they move away with their goods. We have the ones that are stable, like some of the ones being built by the FCT administration. Now, for you to set up a market like the ones we have like the one in Kuba also, there's a major market there, that's the Matama market. Yeah. What are the major safety precautions that are supposed to be in a market before you even start operation?
Thank you. A market is an organized place. And with the modern facilities in these modern markets that we have now, we are expecting that fire hydrants, that is where water is channeled, should be in the market. And there's no standard market in the FCT right now that does not have fire hydrants. So fire hydrant will be in the market. That is the first thing before even the construction of the building. Then we now talk about portable fire extinguishers to be installed in a very reasonable distance. The distance between one fire extinguisher and the other is also determined. It's not more than 30 meters. More so, the training of the market owners or the shop owners, the tenants, as the case may be, also it's something that is paramount. You train them, because these fire extinguishers will not just automatically operate themselves. You need to operate them. And fire starts small. Fire starts small. So at the incipient stage of fire, you can use first aid firefighting equipment to extinguish it. So if you are trained on how to make use of fire extinguisher, you don't have any problem with that. And it will not escalate to involve so many shops. More so, having said that, you need to also find a way not to clog the entire space. The market, like I said, is a standard market, is expected to be a standard market, where the accessibility to different stalls, shops, warehouses in the market are not to be blocked. Because blocking, that is poor housekeeping, is what we refer to in fire service terms. Poor housekeeping also leads to fire outbreaks, because by the time you litter every ground with dirt and rubbish, then there will be, and once there's a fire, it will escalate and you won't have access to the fires, to the seat of fire. So in that case, most of these measures, once they are put in place, you will have a good and standard market.
Now, you're talking about markets, especially the ones built by the FCT administration or the local area councils. But let's extend it beyond that. Okay. If you go to some plazas where we have businesses, like the case of the mob that we mentioned earlier, they don't have these things. Does it mean that you don't enforce it, or because it's private owned and you just let it go?
Yeah, thank you very much. We actually enforce this, most of these our rules. We, after educating them, it is the rule, it's the duty of the fire prevention unit to go to every organization, enlighten them about dangers of fire, enlighten them about what they need to put in place before they even start operating in that premises. Now, having said that, enforcement though comes in, because we have enforcement unit and it's headed by an engineer, a very competent engineer who knows about the structure of every building, who knows the importance. So the enforcement goes in to look at the access to correct the wrongs. But most plazas, I am sorry to say this,
Not just plazas, even residential areas.
Most plazas, especially in FCT, we are finding it difficult to, because at times when we talk to their management, it will take months for them to call us back and say, let us implement. And after some time, you see them saying they don't have the funds to correct these wrongs. So we are trying, because the development control especially is what we are. We have a desk officer in development control, so that if we want to put up any structure, we should be part of the plans. So your development plan cannot sail through except it passes through the fire service, so that we make the input right from time before the structure is fully on ground, so that we won't be having this need to correct the wrongs of the past. And now we are doing that.
Okay, let's look at the harmattan season itself. Like you said, some of those fires we saw recently were as a result of the season we are. But what are the activities of man, or what do you think are the activities that could lead to fire outbreak at this time of the year we are?
Actually, we have two major causes, natural and that of man-made. Man-made is divided into two, arson as well as carelessness. The one that is the major causes of fire is that of carelessness. Arson is rare, but it's happening as well. But that of carelessness, the list is endless. Like cooking unattended to in the kitchen. You are cooking as well as watching one soap opera in your sitting room. That one can cause fire. That is carelessness. Buying substandard electrical sockets or making electrical wiring in your house.
Illegal connections.
Yes, illegal connections. Or overloading of sockets. You can see that all these are carelessness. And children playing with matches or hoarding of petrochemical products in your homes because of fuel scarcity. All these are carelessness, because you can actually use it when it is getting finished. When you are getting the product is getting exhausted, you can go out and buy another one. Queue up if there's fuel scarcity. It's better to save your life in that aspect than to now hoard fuel and save them at home, and that can cause problem. Then indiscriminate bush burning. We have a program that we run every year, and we have started or about to start right now, because the preparation is actually in top gear, and that is what we call dry season campaign. That dry season campaign, because the farmers have harvested and they are preparing their farmlands for the next rainy season.
Yes.
Or some are still harvesting, so they will keep on burning bush. And so most of the time, at times you will discover when you are traveling at night, you will see in the bush, in the far bush, you will see fire. So those are the things we are talking about. Once you are setting up a fire in the bush, then you should be able to monitor it so that it will not extend to buildings, or it will not extend to somebody's farmland. Because this thing has economically affected many people, and it has socially affected so many people, because once your house is on fire, you will be devastated and you will not be able to be coordinated to do so many things that you're supposed to do. So we are warning you, this harmattan period, every place is charged up. Be sensible. There's one particular aspect that people have not known, and we are trying to work on them recently, And by next year, by the grace of God, we are trying to intensify on that program. And that is about behavior-based safety. Behavior-based safety, we have discovered that for you to be safety conscious is an innate thing. It's an innate thing that must be built with time. So we want to really plant that psychology, that knowledge into you in your organization, so that we won't be stressed up. We won't be stressed up to even come to you and warn you about these things. We will only tell you that these are the things you're supposed to do. We educate you on that, and then from there you pick it up. You are the one that will be telling all of your subordinates or your employers or your employees that, okay, these are the things we should do, these are the things. So it's already part of you. Are we getting it? So there is this ABC model. I don't want to go into that deeply now, but there's this ABC model that we are trying to inculcate into people, and that is the antecedent, the behavior itself, and the consequences. If you build a structure and you are not safety conscious, then that means you should know that there will be fire. And what will be the result of that? The consequences. So the consequences that you will lose a lot of property, you will lose a lot of economy, and once you are in business and such a business is attacked by fire, your customers will not come. They will find another place and they might never come again. So in that case, we are trying to see how we can change people's mind using the behavior-based safety model.
Well, in as much as we commend that giant step that you're about to take in ensuring that people have prior notice of danger of fire. Now let's look at the home front. For instance, there was an incident in that very Kubwa market fire where a child was trapped inside the fire, according to the reports we got, and a mother was trying to save the life of that child, and she was caught in the fire too, and the both lost their life. In the case of fire incidents, whether primary, I don't know whether you categorize fires. What is the first step an individual is supposed to take? What are those precautions you're supposed to take as individual before the fire service comes in? For instance, the Kubwa fire was large, but there are things people can do. You know, people just risking their life in saying that they want to save lives and then ended up being victims themselves. So what are the first steps? What are the steps that people should do in case of fire outbreaks?
Thank you very
in
much.
Homes, in marketing,
Thank you very much. There is these steps that we normally tell people that, okay, these are the things you should do in case of fire. And that is number one, is that you raise alarm. Honestly, if you are not a professional and you can't use fire extinguisher, you have not been taught on how to make use of the first aid firefighting equipment, then don't claim to be a hero. Leave the scene. Try to escape. And let me also tell you this, that once you discover fire and you are inside the building, start crawling out of the place, especially if the smoke has filled the entire atmosphere. But smoke has a nature. It goes up and drives the available oxygen down. So you can go down and start crawling. The oxygen will be down there for you to breathe. And breathing is what you need to sustain you that particular period. So as you are crawling out, you are gathering some energy. As you are gathering that energy, you use your backhand to test the knob or the handle of the door, and you get out. The reason is that if the handle is hot, that means there's a fire in the opposite side. That place might not be safe for you to go to get out. So that is the first step you do, and that is one aspect. Then after raising alarm, people will be alerted that, oh, there's a fire in the so-so room, in so-so floor, and then people will take caution and will not go towards that area. And those that will approach that area will go with fire extinguisher. Probably the fire is still small. They will know how to handle it, and it will be contained. So
in a situation where we don't have those fire extinguisher, we've seen cases where people use water and all that.
Yes, they improvise to use water. But like I said before, that is carelessness as well. For you to have a structure where you don't have fire extinguisher, you are not prepared to live in that structure. If you are living in that structure, then you are putting your life at risk. So it's the best thing to do is, the first thing to do is that, please install fire fighting equipment in your structure. That is it. Then secondly, after you raise alarm, evacuate the building. When you are evacuating the building, you are telling people that, okay, there's a fire in a particular place. You are evacuating the building for safety because you are not a professional that can fight the fire. And like you rightly ask, you don't even have fire extinguisher to fight the fire. So evacuate the building. Then call the fire service. When you call the fire service, they are the professionals that have been trained to fight this fire. Why wasting time? When we do have issue of coming to a place on late or something, is because you didn't put the call on time. When you call fire service will turn out the nearest fire station to the fire scene, and they will come on time. Our time is 5 minutes grace, except that there are mitigating factors that actually hinder us from coming there on time. Things like the distance at times, secondly, the traffic, and then thirdly, the road network. We have a right of way anyway, but we still have to manage so that we don't cause problems along the way before we get there.
Okay, before I ask the next question, still on these precautions, okay. We know about large fires like bush burning.
Okay.
Is there a measure also to probably reduce or curtail it from spreading? Because I remember my last discussion with you, we talked about bush burning. Is there any way you can actually safeguard your properties in terms of fire, probably within your vicinity, not actually in your building? Yeah. Because this period we have, whether believe it or not, people are already setting fires on bushes.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. About bush burning, if you are to burn the bushes around your home or in the farmland, then you should supervise. What we want is not about you not clearing your bush, getting ready for the next farming season, but it's for you to be cognizant of what it can cause. So you station your people around there. Like now, I am the one that owns the farmland. I seek the help of my neighbors and or my wards. Say, come, let us go to the farm. Today is our bush burning day. Then you set up, then you now demarcate, because at times when the bush is actually on, when the fire is on, you try to demarcate by separating creating a kind of demarcation so that it will not extend to the next farm. So that is one other thing. Then another thing is that you station your men with either buckets of water so that in case when it's getting out of hand, you try it to. Then another thing that used to happen in some other places is that you call the fire service to come and stand by. Yes, it has happened several times. Okay, please, so we are trying to do a massive bush burning and we don't know whether it will escalate or not, so please be on standby. We have done that several times. It's not only when you have political activity or anything that we go on standby. No, even on that, we go on standby. So that is what is expected of you to do. Be conscious that it might escalate, and then get men ready and get your equipment also ready, that in case it gets out of hand.
Yeah, you said the time limit for the fire service to get to a scene of fire is 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Now, we've had incidences where people blame the fire service for not responding on time. For instance, the Nyanya fire, from the tape we got, we were hearing the siren of the fire service from afar, if it was actually the fire service. And then from the background in the report, the fire has gone far. When is the fire service getting here? So how accessible is the FCT fire service to the residents of Abuja? Do we have enough of them? Because I remember a time ago we did a report where, let's not go there, but where we have incidences where your equipment, the water truck or the fighter truck had no water in it, and we don't want to go beyond our scope of discussion this morning.
Thank you.
But how accessible is your facility to the FCT residents?
Thank you very much. Let me make reference to that Nyanya fire that you mentioned. The nearest fire station to that Nyanya is Karu Fire Station. And Karu came there on time. They were called, I think if I'm correct, 7:21 or so, and they got here 7:28. Okay. 7 minutes. So let me also tell you one thing, that when you say the fire must have gone far, the whole places, yes. When did you put out the call? The call did not come on time. So maybe they've been trying their best to see that they extinguish the fire themselves.
Probably save their goods.
Save their goods. So that is also a waste of time. Instead of you to go on doing that, call the fire service. Whether the fire is going to be under control by you or by your own effort, call the fire service. Because the fire of that of Nyanya started from one shop and it got to up to almost 10 shops. So when it got to up to 10 shops, I now started calling fire service. Then you can see that fire service cannot reverse the situation. They have to go and be able to salvage it because we did not allow it to extend to the nearest, to the other shops.
All right, as we wrap up this discussion, any message from the FCT fire service to the residents, especially this season we are?
Yes, the season we are is a charged season. Harmattan is here, and you need to be careful on what to do. Make sure you put off your electrical appliances before you leave your home and before you leave your offices at the close of the day's business. 2, do not be careless. Don't be complacent over what safety is all about. Install firefighting equipment and call the fire service on time. And when there's a fire call, when you see emergency vehicles coming on the way, please give them way. That also counts against the time they are supposed to meet up with. That is that. And then you have fire service number as well in your premises. Our hotline is, and it still remain, 092906118. I repeat, 092906118. Don't try to write it down. Just memorize it. And when you memorize it, anywhere, anytime you find yourself, it could be helpful, and you can help somebody with it. Thank you very much.
Town Planner Ibrahim Muhammad is the PRO FCT Fire Service. It's nice having you on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a quick break here. When we return, the program This Morning Night TV continues.